This lesson demonstrates using Ant to compile a servlet, package the class file in a WAR file, and deploy the application to the server. You can see that we start off with only two things in the directory. The build.xml file is the one used by Ant, and I'll be showing you that here in just a minute. The src directory contains all the source code required for the application. Because of the way Ant works, you can put the source code anywhere you want. The organization you use for your source code has nothing to do with the WAR file and the organization that it requires. This one is very simple. Let me show you. The src directory has two subdirectories. The servlets subdirectory contains the one servlet that's used in this example. This is a very simple servlet. All it does is display the one line of text to demonstrate that it does run. The metadata directory contains the web.xml file that will be included in the WAR file. You've seen this layout before. It has a single servlet tag, which specifies the name of the class as depapp servlet, and a servlet mapping tag that specifies the name it will go by in the server. The URL pattern is to be deplet. That's the application. The build file puts this together into a deployed application. This is the build file, and it's set to execute the default target named deploy. Here is the deploy task. It depends on the task make war, so that one will execute before it. But you can see that make war depends on compile, and compile depends on init. Now, the init task here at the top doesn't depend on anything else, so it's the first one to actually execute. It begins by defining a property named auto-deploy, which is the path of the auto-deploy directory of the server. Just like with the scripts that I showed you earlier, if you have direct access to the auto-deploy directory, you can deploy any application directly to it. The second property that is set is the name of a work directory. This is the directory that's going to be used to create the class file of the servlet. Now, in this example, there is only one servlet, but this build file is written so there could be several. These last two commands make certain that the work directory exists and that it is empty. After that, the compile target executes. It contains just one task, Java-C, the Java compiler. The src dir attribute specifies the name of the directory holding the source code. The des dir attribute names the directory to contain the class files output from the compiler. The class path is set to the same jar file that has been used earlier. All the source files in the source directory will be compiled, and their class files will be put into that destination directory. Java-C is one of the standard commands that comes with Ant. There are lots of them, and they're documented on the Ant website, and there are a lot more parameters than just the ones you see here. If you plan on using Ant, I suggest you take a look at this task in the documentation and look at some of the other tasks and see how many options are available. The next thing that happens is the execution of the make war target. It uses the task named war. The dest file attribute names the output file, the war file. The web.xml attribute is the web.xml file name. The class's tag specifies the directory that contains the class files, the files that will go into the class's directory of the war file. There could be other directories, and I'll be showing you that later, but that's all we need in this one. And that brings us all the way back to the starting point, the deploy target. This one simply copies the war file into the auto-deploy directory. Now, the actual technique that you use to deploy applications will vary depending on your installation. If for some reason you don't have access to this directory and you can't copy files to it, you can always go to the administration page of the server and pull the application into deployment from that end. Also, there are several containers and different servers that work in different ways. If you want to use Ant and you can't copy it this way, take a look at the Ant website for the deploy tasks. There are a couple of deployment tasks ready to go, and they may be exactly what you need. Or you could go to the extreme and write your own. It's just a matter of writing a Java class. But before you write your own, I would look around the internet to find out what's already been done. If everything works right, the whole thing should be done with a simple command. Well, the build worked right. If it all worked, the servlet is deployed and ready to run.